Okay, so you may notice we are not in the office today. I have been talking about the fact that I wanted to show you guys the garden outside, so I got my adventure hat on. I don't know if I needed that for gardening, but we're gonna show you the garden today, and it's kind of chaotic. Some stuff is doing really good, some is all over the place. I had a random tomato plant that just like grew in one of the beds that I did not plant. It was just came up from last year, so I let it go, and it's like a monster. And I'll show you. So come on, here we go. Okay, so over here we have the peppers. Got some jalapenos, some shishitos. I don't know if you can see. Can you kind of see that? There's one. There's a bunch in there. So I have like rows of 3 of them. And then the tomato plants are back here and they're kind of going crazy. So I have, these are gonna be like a cherry tomato. These will be like a yellow cherry tomato, and these are gonna be like a bigger one. The Rose de Bern is what they'll be called. And everything is still green. I keep seeing people that have ripe tomatoes and stuff, and it makes me jealous. All right, so this is the chaos over here. It's ridiculous. I don't know what happened. I think that's, is that grass? No, that's an onion. So there's onions under there, but I planted potatoes in the raised bed and they kind of took over everything. These are potatoes, all this crap. And then this is the monster tomato plant that kind of just grew and went insane. So we have that. Over here we have what survived of my cucumbers. Oh my god. You can see there's some little guys under there. And then under here we have the cone of shame. This is actually because there's a groundhog that I'm convinced pole vaults into here. He ate all the tops of my carrots. These were carrots. They're still under there and I can get those, but he ate all the fronds and stuff. And under there is like parsley. There's some dill. All right, let's go look at the herb garden. This is chaos. So this here is the thyme. It's huge. Anybody need some thyme? Because I have a lot. And we have some chives and some other little chive onions here. And then this is oregano. Like I said, everything's chaos. All right, so over here we have lavender. The lavender flowers are gone for this season. They were there for quite a while. We got some rosemary too, which is doing good. It was a lot smaller before. This actually survived the winter, which is surprising because it's not supposed to, but it did. And yeah, another lavender plant right there. Oh yeah, I planted potatoes everywhere. These are more potatoes right here. And then I have more because when I cut them up, there were so many. So let's go over here. These also potatoes. We're gonna have so many potatoes. I've never grown them before, so that's a thing. And then as we continue on, there's none left, but I'm gonna show you where I have the strawberries. Got those over here. Got 12 plants. I ate the ones that were there. They gone. They're pretty much done by like the end of June. And then I got these plants over here. And I have them protected because things were eating a lot of my plants. So this is a Yosta bush. You can kind of see it. These are a mix between a gooseberry and a currant, so they'll be really good for jam and stuff. And I have 2 of those. And I'll probably take these protective things off soon. Yes. And then, in case you care, here's my bird bath. Looks like I need to clean this thing out. Got a little bunny down there. It's cute. I've been looking for a bird bath for quite some time, and this one wasn't insanely expensive, so picked it up. Over here we have a blueberry bush, and currently no blueberries on it. I ate them, and then the birds ate the rest. We got another little guy over here. And my shadow's eating it. Oh. And we have, I don't know if you can see, there's like one lonely blueberry. The rest have been consumed. Okay, so now that you've finally seen the garden, I know before I was like, blah, 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 garden this, that, and the other. And so I wish I could have got some footage when the blueberries actually had blueberries and the strawberries had strawberries, but, you know, I'll try to do better next year. And I swear every year too, every year I'm like, I'm gonna make it more organized and less chaotic. And I guess it's all a learning process, right? Those freaking potatoes are out of control. Anyways, today we are going to talk about my past, present, and future of books, what I've just finished, what I'm getting into, and what we're going to read in the future. So let's get into it right now. Recently, I just finished Oracle by Thomas Olde Duvel, and that book is awesome. There will be a standalone review of that coming soon, so keep an eye out for that. I love horror that has to do with the sea, the ocean, lakes, rivers, just water in general. So this story is about this old wooden ship called the Oracle appears in this field where normally there are tulips growing. It came out of nowhere. There's no like marks around it, like how it could have possibly got there. It's just there. It's on its side. And these two school kids, Emma and Luca, discover it one morning when they're driving. Well, they're not driving. They're riding their bikes to school. It's super foggy and misty, and the air is kind of wet and cold. And Luca, out of the corner of his eye, sees something in this field, and then he realizes it's a ship, and he's like, "What the heck?" And he's like, "Hey, Emma, let's go check this out. What is this?" So they go, and it's this old wooden ship, and they're like, "Oh my god, this looks like something out of Pirates of the Caribbean. Crazy." And they get up there and they're looking at it and they see this hatch into the ship, and it's just, you look in and it's just dark, just pitch black, like you can't see anything in there at all. So Emma decides she's gonna go in there and like see what's in there, and Lucas kind of got bad vibes. He's like, I don't know, he didn't really think she should go in there. She goes in there. When she gets and pops down, her eyes kind of like glaze over, and he starts yelling like, "Get out of there, dude, like come back here." And she doesn't seem to be able to hear him, and then she walks further into the ship. He hears her say, "Is there someone here? Luca, is that you?" And then a bell starts tolling, like this creepy bell. Who the bell tolls, and she disappears. And then others come and they disappear in the ship too. And it's a crazy story. It has to do with the sea. There's weird like old gods involved in this, and you find out where the boat came from, what's its purpose, what does Luca have to do with all this, because now he's kind of attached to it because he was the first person to discover it, some of the history behind it. This is a boat that actually disappeared in 1716, and it's a crazy story, and it's really awesome. This is the second book I've read by this author, and the first one I read was Hex, which is fantastic. It's about this town that's basically cursed, and they can't leave town, and there's this witch from, I think the witch is like several hundred years old. Her eyes are sewn shut and her mouth is sewn shut, and she just kind of walks through the town, and the people can't ever leave because if they try to, they become suicidal. I really liked that book. And then this one too, there's a tie-in between those stories, which is awesome. So I would highly recommend it. If you like horror that has to do with sea and is weird and paranormal, it's awesome. Okay, so what I just started recently, Darcy Coates has a new book out. I say new book, but it's kind of new, but not new, because it's Ghost Camera. And Ghost Camera is one of the first stories that Darcy Coates ever wrote. He wrote it in 2014, and it had been discontinued from print. And out of all the books she's written, she'd get people being like, "Hey, where can we find Ghost Camera? This, that, and the other." So they're releasing it now, 10 years later. And originally it was a novella. She kept it pretty much the core of it the same as what I'm to understand. There's a whole note about it in the beginning of the book. And it is that story, and then there's some other stories in there. And I can tell you what the other story is about. So it's a collection of short stories. And then obviously the main core story, Ghost Camera. So the other stories, it says, a woman survives a plane crash in a remote Arctic tundra, accompanied only by a stranger who seems fixated on something moving through the blinding snow. The house stands empty, hungry, waiting for the children drawn to it like moths to a flame. Another is a woman finds a shoebox filled with old VHS tapes. They have a note attached. Don't watch. You'll regret it. Don't do it. That sounds familiar. So yeah, it's a collection of stories, and I'm really looking forward to getting further into it. I'm not too far in. Ghost Camera, the whole premise is there's this girl, Janine, she's the main character, and while she's at a wedding, she goes up into this lighthouse. She has her own camera, and she's going to take a few shots from up there, and there is an actual wedding photographer that was hired, but she's just kind of getting like, you know, on the fly shots, and she goes up there and she finds this old Polaroid camera that might be from the 80s or something like that, and she decides to, like, she takes a shot with one of the photos and then puts it in her pocket and kind of forgets about it, and then ends up taking the camera with her. And when she comes down the stairs of the lighthouse, there's this old guy, and he seems really pissed off that she was up there, and he's like, you shouldn't be up there. There was a little boy that fell off there and died a few years ago. And she's like, oh, I'm sorry. I didn't know. Maybe they should have locked the door. I don't know. She leaves after things start to wind down, and she had forgotten about this picture. You know, she looked at it. She's like, oh, it looks like a nice photo. Whatever. The wedding party from the view up there on the lighthouse. And then she has this dream. And she dreams about the photo, and she dreams that she sees in it this little boy, and then so she wakes up, and then she looks at the photo, and she's looking at it, she's like, oh, there's no little boy, and okay, you know. But she looks at it a little closer, and there's these like 6 kind of ghostly images in it, and that's all I'm gonna say. And I love Darcy Coates, and it's, you know, it's super addictive from the get-go, and I can't wait to read more of it and see what these other stories are about. So if you had read the original Ghost Camera, I don't know if this is going to be too much different, but let me know if you have and what you thought of it. All right, so now what we're going to get into. Let's tell you about it. So first up, we have The Morning Side by Tia Obrecht. I don't know if I'm saying that right. Maybe it's Obrecht? Obrecht? Not sure. There's the world you can see, and there's the one you can't. Welcome to Morningside. After being expelled from their ancestral home in a not-so-distant future, Sylvia and her mother finally settle at the Morningside, a crumbling luxury tower in a place called Island City, where Sylvia feels unmoored in her new life, because her mother has been so diligently secretive about their family's past, and because the once vibrant city where she lives is now half underwater. Sylvia knows almost nothing about the place where she was born and spent her early years, nor does she fully understand why she and her mother had to leave. But in Ina, there is an opening. A person willing to give the young girl glimpses into the folk tales of her demolished homeland, a place of natural beauty and communal spirit that is lacking in Sylvia's lonely and impoverished reality. Enchanted by Ina's stories, Sylvia begins seeing the world as full of magical possibilities, and becomes obsessed with the mysterious older woman who lives in the penthouse of the Morningside. Bezzy Duras is an enigma to everyone in the building. She has her own elevator entrance and leaves only to go out at night and walk her 3 massive hounds, often not returning until the early morning. Sylvia's mission is to unravel the truth about this woman's life and her own haunted past, but it may end up costing her everything. So I thought that sounded kind of crazy and sounded pretty cool. So The Morningside by Tia Obrecht. Okay, the next one we have In the Universes by Emmett North. And this one, Rafi works in an observational cosmology lab, searching for dark matter and trying to hide how little they understand their own research. Every chance they get, they escape to see Britt, a queer sculptor who fascinates them for reasons they also can't or won't understand. As Rafi's carefully constructed life begins to collapse, they become increasingly fixated on the multiverse and the idea that somewhere there may be a universe where they mean as much to Britt as Britt does to them. And just like that, Rafi and Britt are 13 years old, best friends, and maybe something more. In Universes is a mind-bending tour across parallel worlds, each an answer to the question of what Rafi's life would be if things had happened just a little differently. The universes grow increasingly strange. Women fracture into hordes of animals, alien-possessed bears prowl apocalyptic landscapes, But across worlds, Rafi, with their sometimes friends, sometimes lovers, Britt, Kay, and Graham, reaches for a life that feels authentically their own. And I thought it sounded kind of wild and crazy. And yeah, in Universes by Emmett North. And then, you know, every once in a while I need to go back to the Cosmere. So, The Sunlit Man by Brandon Sanderson. Picked this one up because I saw it. It was on the shelf at the library. And I was like, yes, why not? Let's do it. Let me tell you what this one's about. Running. Putting distance between himself and the relentless Night Brigade has been Nomad's strategy for years. Staying 1 or 2 steps ahead of his pursuers by skipping through the Cosmere from one world to the next. But now, his powers too depleted to escape, Nomad finds himself trapped on Canticle, a planet that will kill anyone who doesn't keep moving. Fleeing the fires of a sunrise that melts the very stones, he is instantly caught up in the struggle between a heartless tyrant and the brave rebels who defy him. Failure means a quick death, incinerated by the sun, or a lifetime as a mindless slave. Tormented by the consequences of his past, Nomad must fight, not only for his survival, but also for his very soul. Oh my gosh. Alright, Sunlit Man. That sounds kind of crazy. It makes me think of that one planet in Star Wars that I can't think of the name of right now. I want to call it Dagobah. That's not right. No, Dagobah. Mustafar, apparently, is the fire planet. Anyway. So yeah, that is my garden and the books I'm getting into. Happy to finally share some footage of the garden with you guys. I know I've been slacking. If you like videos where I talk about multiple books that I am reading or have read, next video coming up will be about that, so stick around and check it out. And if you enjoyed hanging out today, hit that subscribe button, come back, see me again, and we'll talk about more bookish things and weird stuff.